Afternoon, everyone. We have now reached the last committee meeting for today, Monday, December 18th, and this is the Diversity Committee. It is my pleasure to welcome our new Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer for the MTA, Lourdes Zapata. Lourdes, welcome. And I am also fairly new to this committee as chair. So we would like to get started. We'd like to know if there are any public speakers.
Good afternoon. We have one member of the public register to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speaker that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The only speaker that we have today is Maddie Bucky's Highland.
You got that right. Good afternoon. I'm Maddie W. Bucky's Highland. First, I would like to welcome Blanca Lopez as the chairwoman for this. You're going to do a great job in this thing, Blanca. Anyway, I want to speak today about diversity. As someone living with autism for the past 20 years of my life, diversity is important, where we have accessibility rights. And, as someone, this world is not just for people who don't have disabilities, but it's for all of us. Like my friends who have disabilities, like my friend Mr. Greif, we would like to thank the Metropolitan Transportation Authority for its commitment to having people with disabilities, since there are diverse people ever since President George Herbert Walker Bush signed the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I like to announce that this is an accessible station. Anyway, everybody, diversity rights are human rights, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget. Anyway, I hope everyone had a great day. May God bless each and every one of you, and happy holidays and a very happy new year.
Madam Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Much. Unfortunately, we do not have a quorum for this meeting, so we will not be taking a vote to approve the meeting minutes from September's meeting. This committee meets on a quarterly basis, but we will continue to the Diversity Committee work plan. Are there any updates for the 2023 work plan?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. We have added the updated DBE policy and 2024 equal opportunity policy statements to today's meeting. Those can be found on pages 13 through 29 of the committee book. We've also moved the MWDBE and SDVOB task force announcement to the April 2024 meeting and the review of the Diversity Committee charter to the June 2024 meeting. The updated 2023 work plan is on pages 6 through 9 of the Diversity Committee book for your review. The 2024 Diversity Committee work plan can be found on pages 9 through 12.
Mr. Zuckerman, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, very well. Let's move forward. Executive summary.
Thank you very much. I will take over the agenda and present the executive summary, where we have 3 primary agenda items. First being the MWDBE SDVOB programs and compliance, outreach and certification, and SBDB highlights, updates on the small business mentoring program, and updates on our workforce ERG activities and the 5-year DEI strategic plan. I did want to take a moment to formally introduce myself to members of the committee. I joined the MTA in September of 2023, most recently coming to the MTA as the prior president CEO of the South Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, which is locally known as SOBRO, is a nonprofit economic development group that works around workforce, youth, adult, and affordable and supportive housing, as well as small business services. Prior to that term, I served as the New York State Chief Diversity Officer, and then elevated to that position from running the MWBE program at Empire State Development, where I was there from 2014 to 2018. I have dedicated my professional life around public policy, diversity, and equity, as well as workforce and youth development and small business and economic development programming. So I'm very much looking forward to doing some really great work here at the MTA with DDCR and with this committee in particular. I would like to just take a moment, if I may, to acknowledge the DDCR team who have worked diligently to ensure the success of our equity and diversity programs. I'm joined this afternoon by members of our DDCR leadership team that I will introduce in a moment, and they include Deputy Chief Diversity Officer for MWDBE SDVOB Contract Compliance, Ray Burke, Deputy CDO for Small Business Development Programs, George Cleary, Deputy Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Dr. Rosalind Green, Deputy Chief CDO for Tech Operations, DBE Certification and Outreach, Christine Norman, as well as various members of our DDCR team. And given the holidays, I just want to take an extra special moment to recognize their attendance and their support in everything that we do. They include, but are certainly not limited to, Clay Roberts, Raul Largo, Barbara Cockfield, Alana Smith, Cherie Owens, Joyce Brown, Mark Frazier, Chris Santariello, and David Sang, and they're all joining us this afternoon for today's meeting. So with that, I will move on to our report related to the goal attainment. We're going to start with the data that represents our MWBE, DBE, and SDVOB accomplishments for the first and second quarter of fiscal year 23-24. You'll see that our MWBE payments to date are at over $361 million. Our SDVOB payments to date are at over $16 million. The DBE fiscal year 22-23 ended September 30th, and our total DBE awards are reflected above at $392 million, and that represents awards of 16% of our total availability. So unfortunately, we did fall short of our 20% goal, but we are, continuing to do as much as we can to get to that 20%. You will see also that we are on track, currently on track at 32% for our MWBE goal. So we have already exceeded our 30% goal for the year. We are at 6% for our SDVOB, which matches our goal. We're currently tracking about 60% for DBE, so we're certainly going to be looking at maximizing all of these numbers over the next quarter. Yes, sir.
Can you go back?
Oh, sorry.
That's right. Thank you. I get lost in the acronyms, and board members need periodic reminders of what things are. Just the three major buckets are. Just remind me of the acronyms one more time.
Of course. MWBE, which is Minority and Women Business Enterprises.
Right.
Those are state certified firms. SDVOB is Service Disabled Veteran Owned Business Enterprises. And then DBE is Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, a federal designation.
So can you compare and contrast the DBE from the first two? Because the first two are very obvious what they are, but the third one is...
DBE is a federal. So MWBE and SDVOB are state certifications.
Right.
DBE would be federal.
So what's a DBE? Is it the same categorizations?
It's a different certification. They mirror somewhat the qualifications for MWBE, but they are different. It's a different certification process. They also have different requirements. So DBE, for example, has a personal net worth cap. I believe it's 1.32. Christine can correct me if I get that wrong. As opposed to MWBE, which is with the state, and they have a $15 million.
So I guess I'm just trying to compare and contrast why we've made 1 and 2 but not number 3. And so I'm just guessing, meaning the third one, so I'm guessing the differences we have, if our MWBE ceiling is greater net worth, we have businesses we're working with that are bigger in financial size than the ones the DBE requires? Is that the root cause of the difference? That is part of
the challenge with the DBE firms because they have such a low personal net worth cap. So we have, therefore, fewer DBEs to pull from.
Right.
They have to be certified.
Got it.
We've also got, as the state, as many entities are moving towards design build models, that also creates additional challenges with identifying firms, and they also tend to be backloaded on contracts.
Got it.
So there are unique challenges to DBE. Christine, would you like to just add anything there?
Yes, I would say that there is a difference in the way the programs are evaluated. The MWBE program is evaluated on payments, and the federal DBE program is evaluated on awards. So what we're reflecting is the 16% of awards to DBEs, and the design build model, has somewhat of an impact on that because firms are usually added over time and not always represented up front.
And just a quick question. with respect to not achieving the 20%, do we then have to submit a plan or anything to address that for next year?
Yes, I'm sure that we will be required to provide a shortfall analysis, and we will update you on those requirements as they occur. Okay.
Thank you.
So moving on, we wanted to provide just a general overview of some of our top prime and subcontracting awards over the last quarter from April 2023 through September 2023. We've got Thundercat, which received a $36 million award as a prime, a 5-year contract to update our Kronos software. Penda Aiken, which received a contract with New York City Transit for temporary medical personnel. Empire Control Abatement, which received a stormwater mitigation contract. And then for subcontract awards, we've got GCC OM Construction, which received foundation structure and building exterior work contracting for the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Northeast Construction, structural steel erecting ironwork for the viaducts at the Throgs Neck Bridge. And Dinach Associates, which is an engineering consultant and also received a $2 million contract. With respect to the DBE awards, our time period is a little bit different from October 2020 through June 2023. You will see DBE Voltemp Electrical that received a contract for the rehabilitation of circuit breaker houses in the Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens, as well as Northeast Structural, which received a subcontract award for design build services for replacement of the Park Avenue viaduct. With this, we wanted to share also with the committee some key changes that have recently come into play with our small business development program. I will ask my colleague, George Cleary, to illustrate that.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Lopez and the board members. My full report is on page 66 in the book. In October, the state legislature approved changes to the MTA Small Business Mentoring Program, which we anticipate will make some significant impact in availabilities of contracts for our program participants and in contracting awards overall. Some of those changes, as you could see, one of the first is we increased the annual revenue cap for our contractors from $5 million to $10 million. We increased the contract threshold in our Tier 1 program. That threshold increased from $1 million to $1.5. And in our Tier 2 program, the threshold was increased from $3 million to $5 million. We also increased the numbers of years that a contractor could be in the program. In Tier 2 in the federal program, it increased from 4 years to 5 years. And we believe that this will help us as we continue our march with the program. With that said, that concludes my summary of updates.
Thank you. We'd like to move on now to providing an overview of our MWDBE and SDVR alphabet soup of outreach and certification. And I'll ask my colleague, Christine Norman, to provide that report.
Sure. This gives us a look at first and second quarter outreach events. And we've performed 27 outside MWDBE and SCVOB outreach events for first and second quarter, with various agencies or advocacy groups. DDCR also hosted a series of events that includes 4 DBE certification workshops. Those were held virtually. We also had through September 2 new firm orientations. That was a virtual event, and 1 SDVOB contractor outreach event, and that one was held in person. We've come into contact with over 368 firms. 276 of those firms were certified, which indicates that we may need to do more outreach to small business concerns to develop more firms that require certification to advance our DBE program and refer others to MWBE certification if eligible. We've provided the state's breakdown of services as in consulting, commodities, construction, and construction consulting for the firms that we have come into contact with. Okay.
Sorry, quick question. Can you go back? So when they have 2 or 3 items, it just means that the firm is not only
The
service connected, but they're also minority and women. Let's like,
So the categories we've broken the firms down into is firms that are both state and federal, have state and federal designations. So that only furthers their opportunities to do business with the MTA because they're certified in both categories. So we're just showing you a view of, the kinds of firms and the types of certifications that they have for the businesses we've reached out to so far. Okay. Okay. We've also provided for you an overview of our DBE certification for second quarter, and we are ahead, actually, in when you compare 22 to 23. We've certified 23 more DBEs than we did last year, and we've also decreased the average certification time by 3 days. And additionally, as mentioned earlier, we've updated the DBE policy, and it's included in the meeting book. All right? Questions?
I just want to say that this is, I love the fact that you provide that service to construction companies that could certainly benefit from this certification. So you're opening a door for so many more opportunities for them in this field. And this is what is so unique about this division and what it does. Not only provides opportunities at a specific level, but also working behind the scenes to make sure that all of these companies are ready for future opportunities as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Christine. And yes, I absolutely agree. I think it's critical to not just provide the opportunities and the monitoring, but also the supports that are needed to our businesses. And with that, speaking with respect to the monitoring piece, we thought we would spend a little bit of time this afternoon outlining our efforts on compliance, because it's not just enough to make these referrals and to get our firms engaged in contracting, but making sure that our partners are all doing their part in doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we've asked my colleague, Ray Burke, to walk us through the contracting process. Ray, if you would.
Good afternoon. The purpose of my unit is to maximize inclusion as far as the MTA contracts are concerned, both prime contracting and subcontracting inclusion. So basically, from the compliance perspective, there are 3 stages of compliance: pre-award, post-award, and reporting. In the pre-award stage, the whole process starts by the goal-setting process. So the agencies would submit their goal request to us, where we would actually look to see where the goals would be set as far as state-funded goals and federally funded goals. As you're aware, the state goals are 50% M, 50% W, and 6% SDVOB. And federally, it's 20%. That's the MTA goals. So what we try to do is maximize to meet those goals on our contracts. So over the past, say, in 2022, we had processed almost 500 goal requests on non-construction and construction contracts. And if we fail to match a maximum goal on a contract, it would have to be reviewed by myself, and sometimes as high as Lourdes, before it actually hits the streets. Once we hit the street, meaning it goes back to the agency and they put it out for bid, a contractor would have to submit a goal plan to meet the goal. We call that a bid evaluation or utilization plan. And this utilization plan is required to be submitted prior to award. We will not let a contract be awarded without a approved utilization plan by DDCR. On the monitoring, which is the post-award, that starts after the contract's been awarded. We utilize the New York State contracting system to monitor our contracts. We require the contractors to submit their monthly utilizations of these subcontractors, and that's how we monitor the goals towards meeting the goal that's on the contract. We have regular meetings with these contractors to make sure that they're aware of where they stand as far as compliance with the goals. In addition to that, we also have site visits, or what we call cuff reviews, and that makes sure that these actual subcontractors are working in the capacity that they're intended to work on these contracts. And at the end or during the midpoint of the contract, we evaluate these contractors on their performance towards meeting the goal. And this evaluation is something that is memorialized going forward and may affect their ability to get contracts going forward. We also have a contract closeout process, right, where we basically review all the documentation from the agencies as far as through the financial system and our records to make sure that we can close the contract and there's no low-bearing fruit, to make sure the subcontractors actually got paid what the prime contractors are saying they got paid. And the last stage is the reporting aspect. Now, in the reporting aspect, my team works very closely with Christine's team. And what we do is we scrub all the data for accuracy, right, before Christine reports the data to our federal partners and our state partners. And that concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Any questions? No?
Thank you, Ray. And then last but certainly not least, as the committee is aware, we also monitor workforce data related to the entire MTA, and Dr. Rosalind Green is charged with that aspect. Dr. Green, if you would.
Good afternoon. We have had an unusually busy year this year with our state and federal programs. Starting in April, we came to the board and we had a special briefing on the Title VI program. So we updated our Title VI program and submitted that to the FTA, and that's a 3-year program. That's a program that has focused on our communities, our services, and our ridership. And customers, ridership and customers and prospective customers. So that one was updated in this year. It's unusual for us to have so many in 1 year to be updated. Then we came back in June and we talked about the update of the EEO program. So that's our Equal Employment Opportunity Program. During the next meeting, we talked about our areas of underutilization and some of the plans to address those areas of underutilization. Not only do we have the agency-wide look, but we have the agency-specific look for both the Title VI programs and the EEO programs. Today, we're going to talk mostly about our 5-year DEI strategic plan, and that's going to be given to you, a briefing by our Tower League, which is going to be Barbara Cockfield. Is going to talk about our 5-year DEI strategic plan. We kind of mentioned in previous meetings that was coming. We're hoping to get that to the state by the end of the year and give you a more detailed briefing during the first of the year. Now, as far as our workforce statistics, we have 72,887 employees as of the third quarter of 2023. We will be giving you the year-end statistics and during our first meeting. I guess that's going to be the March or April of 2024. We are constant in our representation of minorities and females across the agency. Thus far, we're comparing this information to our workforce statistics as of 2022 at the same period of time. Part of what we're responsible for is to look at the hiring practices and what's going on in each aspect of the workforce. So as we look at our hires and our separations, we have found that we are continuing to increase in our areas of representation for females and minorities across the MTA. Thus far, as we look at our statistics for the third quarter 2023. And I'm going to pass it on over to Barbara Cockfield to talk about our employee resource groups and the 5-year DEI strategic plan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Our work related to our talent and culture focused on belonging, health, and well-being this quarter. The events included were an all-generational employee resource group had a panel of generations in the workforce. The conversation embraced generational perspectives at the MTA and how their traits, beliefs, and life experiences shaped each generation and how it impacts their work. Empowering Women in Transportation had a breast cancer awareness walk. MTA employees united with the American Cancer Society for the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer walk to raise funds and awareness, support survivors, thrivers, and caregivers, and honor those who we've lost. This year's walk was the 30th anniversary, and it took place in Central Park, and we raised over $25,000. All Generational also had a winter toy and coat drive from November 1st through December 8th. The winter toy and coat drive benefited some local charities. They collected 678 toys, 444 coats, as well as sweaters, hats, gloves, books, and baby items. And Veterans ERG had a Veterans Day ceremony on November the 8th, and the Veterans ERG held a luncheon ceremony to commemorate Veterans Day, and they were joined by Chairman Jana Lieber, as well as executive sponsors and employees. Next slide, please. So now we're going to share the progress of the first MTA 5-year Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan. Executive Order 187 established a comprehensive statewide objectives to promote diversity and inclusion throughout New York State's agencies, workforces, programs, and services delivered to the public. Executive Order 187 required New York State agencies to develop a comprehensive 5-year diversity and inclusion strategic plan. The purpose of this plan is to outline a set of concrete, achievable actions that will allow the MTA to become more fully diverse and inclusive. The plan's framework is built on the following tenets: recruit, retain, and develop a talented workforce, ensure transparent and accountable decision-making for all stakeholders, both internally and externally, and engage, support, and enhance partnerships with vendors, contractors, and city and state federal government. The framework allows us to continue to be a driver for enabling regional equity. DDCR led the planning process starting in early 2023, which included establishing multi-departmental planning teams, organizational assessment and data collection, development of goals and priorities for the next 5 years, and sharing of the plan with agency stakeholders and formally adopting it. Next slide, please. So these are the 4 goals that are agency-wide. The following goals were developed from the overarching priorities that came out as we reviewed state guidance and frameworks for the DEI plan, as well as the agencies and functions discussion and planning meetings for the MTA. Each goal has strategies that are in alignment with the goals from agencies and functions across the organization. Goal 1 is aligned with the following strategic priorities: deliver better service, increase appeal for customers, strengthen and expand the network, promote safety and respect. Goal 2 is aligned with our strategic priority, which is to provide talent and culture, provide strong administrative support, and achieve financial stability and viability. And that's to recruit, retain, and develop a talented workforce. Goal 3, to foster an inclusive workplace culture, is aligned with the following strategic priorities: revive talent and culture, provide strong administrative support, achieve financial stability and viability. And Goal 4, provide a platform for collaborative, effective communication and engagement, is aligned with strategic priority: deliver better service, increase appeal for customers, strengthen and expand the network, revive talent and culture, achieve financial stability and viability. The strategic plan, action plan, will be implemented over a 5-year time span. A complete timeline for the implementation of the goals, strategies, and actions listed within this plan are included in our new dashboard located on our intranet site. This timeline will be updated by DDCR as actions are advanced and completed. DDCR will work with strategy leads to adjust timelines as necessary throughout the year. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Just a quick question in terms of the identification of all of these goals. Were these done based on some public comment period within the MTA? How did we go about identifying these goals? If you could talk a little bit about that.
So we did get some guidance from the state and things that they wanted, ensure that all agencies across New York State included, but they also gave us leeway to make sure things that were important to the MTA were also included. And so we had meetings with executives across the entire organization as well as their teams to develop the goals.
Thank you. Any questions?
And just to add to that, for each goal, we have initiatives that's associated with each goal, and they come from each of the respective agencies. So they are really pretty unique, and they are focused, and they came straight from the executive staff and the top executive and the staff for each agency as to how they wanted to hook on to the 5-year DEI strategic plan, and with a commitment to ensuring that we're going to track, monitor, and achieve those goals.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our report for this afternoon. If I may, we've been joined by some additional staff from DDCR. So if I could just ask the DDCR staff to please stand so the board members can see who you are, and thank you all for joining us. I want to publicly acknowledge the amazing work that this team does. I've had the honor of getting to know them all. I still don't think I know all the names, and I still am trying to figure out who's who and what's what, but everyone's just been incredibly generous with their time and their guidance and their expertise. And I got to say, the MTA is just in excellent hands with this group, so I'm really pleased and honored to be working with each and every one of them.
Thank you so much for coming here. We really appreciate you being here. And again, I just want to echo what Ms. Zapata mentioned. Your hard work, it shows there's a lot of ongoing reporting, monitoring, a little bit of everything, not just to the state, but to at the federal level. So congratulations for all the hard work that you do. And happy holidays. And with that, we will be adjourning the committee meeting. Thank you
Thank you very much.